CALPADS Error Resolution SCTE0698 Missing or Invalid SCSE Record for the CTE Completer. As always, the first step when troubleshooting any error in CALPADS is to consult the CALPADS error list. So here we have a screenshot of the error list, and from left to right we have the error number, error name, error description, fields validated, and suggested resolution. So in CALPADS you have the error number and the error name. A common mistake is to try to troubleshoot the error with just this information. And that's why we consult the error list, because then we have access to the error description, the fields validated, and the suggested resolution. So the error description says, no student course section completion record was submitted for a CTE capstone course at the same reporting LEA or associated state course code submitted is not valid for the SCTE pathway. All right, so either the student has no student course completion record, that's the SCSE record, or that record doesn't align with the CTE pathway reported in the SCTE record. And we see the fields validated identify the SCTE file, the CTE pathway code, the CRSC file, that's the course file for end of year, and in that is the CRS state course code, and then the course section ID, because of course the student course section completion file uses the course section ID to tie those two records together, the student completion record with the course, and the pathway of the course has to align with the pathway code in the SCTE file, that record identifying the student as a completer. So there's three different files that are in comparison or validation in this error. The verbiage in this suggested resolution is very technical, but I would implore you all to always review the suggested resolution and try to glean what you can. You can see that the suggested resolution says if the student did not complete the course for the academic year in the CTE pathway specified in the SCTE file, then remove that SCTE record. If the student is a completer in the CTE pathway, ensure you have submitted at least one student course section completion record with the course section ID at the same reporting LEA for the student that is mapped to the CRS state course code in a CRSC record that can be mapped to the SCTE pathway reported. Verify that the course completed maps to a state course code whose capstone course indicator is yes. This is located in the course group master combo. Like I said, you can see the suggested resolution in its totality is quite verbose. So let's go on to some other resources that will help troubleshoot this error. So we have the CALPADS user manual, and we have a SCTE section. And in that section, you can see the instructions for how to report CTE completers. And it tells you that the student course section completion record must have a matching course section completion record with the state course code designated as completer and the CTE pathway being reported. That CTE pathway being reported is in the SCTE record, and it is reported through the CTE pathway code, which should be aligned to a capstone course. Also, the SCTE record must have the pathway completion ID, which is always equal to the year being reported. And so you can see there's also a screenshot indicating the use of the course group master combos. And so that's another resource that you can verify that you've reported a capstone course. The course group master combos in the valid code combinations document identifies your CTE courses, and those that are capstone courses are highlighted here. You can see that there's capstone next to the state course codes. And then you can see the pathways in which they align. And then there's the CALPADS FAQs. And there's several FAQs related to course completers and how to report those. And they all are consistent. They identify that the SCTE file must align with a capstone record submitted in the course completion file, and that student has to have a C or better in the student course completion file. So those three elements are detailed here in different scenarios. So what are the causes for the SCTE0698 error? Well, you're going to have a student with a SCTE record that has no capstone course reported. in the SCSE record, right? And the three different types of scenarios are: there's no CTE course reported at all, there's no capstone course reported among the CTE courses reported, or the capstone course reported doesn't align with the CTE pathway in the SCTE record. Those are the three different flavors of scenarios for the SCTE0698. So now let's watch a demonstration. Okay, so we're going to look at the SCTE0698 error, missing or invalid SCSE record for the SCTE record. So student course section completion record for the student course technical education record. There's 14 such errors, and we look down here, we can see them listed. So you can always click the error code, and that will link you to the documentation in the CALPADS user manual. This gives us a greater understanding of what we're looking for. The error description, which when you look at the error, you get the name, but this doesn't really always help. You get the error description. No student course section completion record was submitted for a CTE capstone course. This is important, at the same reporting LEA or associated state course code submitted is not valid for the SCTE pathway code. And of the fields that are going to be validated and compared from the SCTE file, the CTE pathway code, from the course completion file, the academic year, the state course code, the course section ID, and then from the student course completion file, the CTE pathway code, the academic year ID, and the course section ID. Right, so all those fields are going to be validated when this error triggers. Okay, so we have two more elements: understanding the error and suggested resolution. These can provide a lot of help for you. I've read these, and they're pretty technical, and I would assume if you're watching a video, you want us to break down it. And so I'm not going to just read it to you. Let's go back and look at the error. Okay, so as always, I'm going to right click and open in a new tab, the student detail screen. Here we are. Scroll down a bit, and you want to look at the student course section and the career technical education, right? So I opened those two modals up. Then I first filtered for academic year ID, right? And then I click filter. So I only have this academic year. And then I'm only looking at SCSE records. And then I click filter. And we know we're looking for a CTE course, right? So we see that there are 2 CTE courses submitted in this academic year. I also, the default is 10. I saw there were 2 pages, so I just expanded to 50. I could have did 20, but now I can see all the courses submitted this year that were SCSE records. And I have 7219, 7234, and 7234. And the CTE pathway, right? So we've submitted the CTE record. So we're saying that this student is a completer. Missing or invalid student course completion record for SCTE record. So CalPADS acknowledged that we submitted a SCTE record. We identified the student as completer, and these courses have not been submitted, right? But we do see, because CTE courses are in 7,000 to 8,000 series, we see 4 such courses. So either they are not capstone courses or they do not fall in the 112 pathway, right? And so how do we know what pathway code 112 is? There's a document. If you ever type in CalPADS and CTEIG or if you're familiar with the CTEIG user guide, it lists all the CALPADS CTE state course codes and aligns them with their pathway. It's a great resource, right? Control F, you open the search navigation, then you go over to headings. I'm looking for pathway 112 because that's what was reported. Looking at the student record, they reported a student as a completer of pathway 112. Performing arts, pathway 112. We can see 7231 is a concentrator, 7232 is advanced, is a capstone, 7234 is a concentrator course, 7235 is a capstone, 7238 is a capstone. So to be reported as completed for pathway 112, there has to be a capstone course. And the problem is neither 7219 or 7234 is a capstone course for that pathway. Again, that's 7238, 7235, or 7232. And so um, the SCTE0698 error is triggering because CalPADS does not see a capstone course completed in the student course completion record that aligns with this pathway. Another resource is the valid code combination document. You use the ellipsis down here and you scroll over to the master group combos tab. You want to filter for only codes that are active. So this is the last year effective date. I either want an NA or a blank value, right? I don't want a last year effective. I want it to be current. And once you do that, you can see the codes are listed. And then you have the column CTE pathway code. Now, perhaps pathway 112 is not correct. And maybe you did submit the right capstone course and the wrong pathway. But I'm going to assume that pathway 112 is correct. So I'm going to filter for pathway 112. And I get a list of all the courses. And you can see that it aligns um, with that CTIG user guide. All right. And you can see intermediate dance 7231, concentrator, advanced dance, capstone 7232. 7234, which was reported, intermediate music and recording arts, concentrator, not a capstone course, right? 7235 would have been a capstone course. Likewise, 7238. Now, 7219 was reported. So let's take this filter off and we can filter for the specific classes that were reported as well. That's an option, right? Let's find 7219 and 7234. Those are the two classes reported, right? So 7219 is fine, right? Because it can go in multiple pathways. That's what the 999 means. And then 7234 is the intermediate course. And since it was reported twice, it could be a two-course pathway, first semester, second semester, and it's the wrong state course code, or there's a better one that should be chosen, or they took two different courses and there's a 7234, the intermediate, and then you can see even in the title it says advanced. Perhaps the advanced is advanced theater, advanced music, intermediate music recording art. So probably it should be 7235. That's what I would imagine if 7234 preceded that. So my recommendation for this particular error would be to change this state course code to 7235 and capture what's advanced and what separates these two sections. That would also resolve the SCTE0698 error, right? You have to report a capstone course for this pathway code, right? And so you're looking to see if your first A, have you submitted a state course code that's in the 7,000 to 899 range? Those are CTE courses. When we see 4 of these courses, and then the second part of that is, are these capstone courses that align with this pathway, right? And so if not, then you identify as the error the pathway code or the state course code. All right, good luck with your troubleshooting.